What's up everybody? I'm Philip, I'm a freelance graphic designer and art director, and today I got 7 Illustrator tips for you guys, which really helped me to improve my workflow. And I tried out different techniques over the last week, and those 7 really just stuck with me. They made my life so much easier, and I hope that they help you as much as they help me in my daily workflow as a graphic designer. So without further ado, let's jump into Illustrator and see what we got.
A quick and easy way to just explore different patterns or try to come up with different ideas for patterns is the Transform Effects panel. For this we just choose Effect, go to Distort and Transform and choose Transform. And this is the panel, and here we can have an impact on the scale, the move, the rotate of the object, or we have different options like, for example, reflect the x-axis or the y-axis. And for this example, we just choose 90 for the scale, we choose 100 for the horizontal move, and we choose 50 copies, for example. Now we got this chunk of balls which are just getting squeezed together in the end. And the fun part starts when we start to rotate it around. And this is how easy, for example, a ball pattern can be created. From here on we can just go to Object, Expand Appearance, and there we go. We have a pretty easy and cool ball pattern effect. The next tip is to use multiple strokes on one object. And obviously you could just drop in an object and just duplicate it with Ctrl Z and Ctrl F, for example, and then just choose a different color and decrease the stroke size, for example. And from here on, you could just go to Expand, Fill and Stroke, and you could now use the Pathfinder tool to make it to one object. Another way is to just drop in your object. Let's give it a stroke. Blue one was 10 pixels, for example. And then we can go to the Appearance panel with the shortcut Shift and F6. And from here on, we can just create another stroke. And this stroke, for example, can be this color, and we can make it, let's say, 20 pixels. And now we have one object which has 2 multiple strokes on it. And the cool thing is that you can just choose a different stroke, for example, and you can just say here, okay, we want to have a dashed line here, for example, and we want to have an arrowhead here, for example. And with this little easy trick, you can just make easy appearances. A huge tool in Adobe Photoshop is the clipping mask. And luckily we have it in Illustrator as well. So let's say, for example, we created this pattern here and we didn't use any pattern tool, we just created it by hand. And now we want to have it in a circular form. What we can do is now select the ellipse tool and just drag an ellipse on top of it. Let's change the color quickly to see what we're doing here. And align this properly in the center. Now what we can do is select both and either make right click and select Make Clipping Mask, or we can just hit the Command key and press 7. And this will create a clipping mask, and in the background we still have our pattern, and from here on we can scale it up or down, or we can just reframe it wherever and however we want. The next tip is about recoloring. So if you want to recolor your final artwork, you can obviously just click and select an object and just choose a different color. And you can go through all these little details and choose different colors for all this grouped object, for example. But there is an easier way to do that. If you just select your whole artboard with Command A, you can go to the Properties panel. If it's not open, you can go to Window and select Properties. And down here you have quick actions. and there is recolor. And then you can recolor your artwork, and it opens up this color wheel, and you can just go around and select different parts of the wheel and the colors will change. Or you can just go through the color library and select different preset colors, for example. So you could try seasoning, or if you want to go art history, let's try pop art. Then it just automatically recolors it. You could also choose how many colors you want. If you just want to have 3 colors, it just differs. Or you can also go to the advanced options and just choose manually how the color should look. So here we could, for example, choose blue color, and for the background we go with this violet color. So the next tip is pretty good to work non-destructible. So let's, for example, drop in the circle. We're gonna duplicate it and make this to a stroke. And we're gonna make the stroke like 20 points, for example. So now we have, let's say we created a logo. This is the logo, and we want to scale it down to a smaller size. If we do this now, we see that the stroke is not staying the same, and now the appearance is completely different. So there are 2 things you could do now. You could just say, okay, we want to have this always like in an expanded way. Then it certainly would work, but this is always destructible. Now those 2 objects are the same relation, but if I want to fill the stroke for some reason now with a different style, it doesn't work anymore because I'm applying a new stroke. So there's another way, a non-destructible way, and this is to go to your Illustrator preferences, go to General, and then just click Scalable Strokes and Effects. And what this makes is that now all the strokes and effects are scalable. So if you scale it down now, the stroke scales with it. And we do have the freedom to just now, for example, create a dashed line. The next tip is the Shape Builder tool. And the Shape Builder tool is a quick and easy way to create unique and custom shapes and create all objects of any sort. And it's a good alternative to the Pathfinder tool. So for example, let's try to create a basketball here. We're going to start with just a normal circle, and then on top of it we're going to make a much bigger one. We're going to duplicate this one to select our main arc, like so, for example. Now we need to add another custom form. Let's take the star, for example. I'm going to scale down. We're going to make round edges. From here we're going to scale this up a bit, and then just place it on top of here. Let's scale this up a bit. Probably like so. Let's duplicate this by just dragging it and holding the Alt key. Rotate it at a 45-degree angle, holding Shift. And drag it down here. Scale this up a bit. And there we go. Now we can select all our objects and either just press this symbol here, which is the Shape Builder tool, or press Shift M. And now we can select the different shapes And we can either add them to the object or holding the Option key or the Alt key on Windows, subtract them from an object. And now we can just go all around our ball and subtract all the objects we don't want anymore. And this just leaves us with our final shape. And now we can select it and just choose an orange color, for example, and increase the stroke width. Let's bring this one to the front. Arrange, bring to front, and deselect the body color. And that's how simple we can make complex shapes with the Shape Builder tool. The next tip is to use a custom grid. So for example, you're going to create a real technical logo and you want to create a custom grid you can design your logo with. So what you could do is just open up the ruler with Command R and just drag in different guidelines. But to get the right distance between each guideline is going to be real hard sometimes. So what you can do instead is just open up the rectangle tool and maybe just choose the size of your artboard as a size for the rectangle, and then go to Objects, go to Paths, and split into grid. And you can select now here in this panel the preview so that we can see what we're doing. And now you can select how many different rows you want to have, how many different columns you want to have, or if you want to have some gutter between them, for example, or you can also adjust the height and the width. And what you can also do is add guides.
So those were my 7 Illustrator tips. They help me a lot on my daily workflow, and I really hope that they're going to help you guys as well. It was a pleasure doing this video for you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.